Great to have everyone out for another day. This track, guys, is our first challenge. It's going to lead us straight down to the Mirrabul River.
It's wet, it's slippery, but I'm not shy to give it a good crack.
Ooh, it is slippery. Gone from mud to rocks.
How's that view out to the left?
It's awesome. How good's this?
That is pretty good.
Great to have everyone out for another day.
Absolutely superb.
We headed into Lal Lal, into the forest. Beautiful area.
Gerry, great to have you back for another day.
Yeah, it's good to be back, Simon. I feel like I've been gone for ages.
So as we weaved our way in, and I didn't know there was a dam, and all of a sudden we've got all these wind farms, didn't know they were there either.
How are you this morning, Peter?
Once again, we're just blessed with being in this sort of environment and being able to do this sort of thing.
I haven't been here myself, and it's so close to my own front door.
Not much more than 53 kilometres from my house.
And today we've got Tony from Donaldson along.
I'll be sitting beside Simon in the silly seat, so to speak.
Could have done without the overnight rain to make things a little bit wet and slippery, but the day's beautiful.
And a spot just into the start there where we aired down and got ourselves prepared for it. That was when the day really began.
This track, guys, is our first challenge. It's going to lead us straight down to the Mirrabul River.
The tracks look like they've had a bit of water, so hopefully we might be able to use those winches today.
Have you seen the front of Peter's car?
Yeah, it looks a bit naked without a bar on it and a winch on it.
Yeah, working on it, I'm working on it.
I think we'll be recovering him up the first riverbank.
There's a challenge.
DMAX doesn't need a winch.
It's not one of those unbreakable things, though, is it?
Now, from memory, Tony, there's a bit of a water splash just around here.
Yeah, that's a water splash.
You'll definitely need your windscreen wipers for that one, guys.
Have you seen the washers on a DMAX? That's the one thing that lets them down.
So we got into it, and sure, after the first hole, it was slippery and that was challenging.
Stop. Oh, look at this. Whoa!
Pretty slippery through here, guys. Oh, and a bit of an off-camber, tricky section through here with a couple of trees. Looks like some fun.
Oh, ooh, sheesh. It is slippery. Oh, no problem. Love this track.
Oh, it gets better, Pete. You might want to walk down and have a bit of a look at this next section.
Guys, this is the next challenge. She's a bit tight and a little bit off camber, and you can see there's a little bit of loving on the tree here already. Come in nice and high, but this is the real worry. Try and at least get your front over that or very close to that. I think we'll be able to squeeze everybody through, no worries.
Pretty dicey in places because it was very off camber and a very slippery downhill approach into a river crossing.
River crossing itself was very interesting. We noticed a camera car who usually get over through everything, and we're still looking at whether we've got diff locks on and this, and they're already up the side of it. They gave it a good crack and had to have another go and winch themselves up it. So that laid down the gauntlet. We all thought we were in a bit of trouble here.
I reckon this is going to get interesting, Simon. It's mighty slippery.
Well, we're not here for a Sunday picnic.
Front locker in, rear locker in. I think he pressed every button, even the stereo, and climbed it, no problem whatsoever.
That was impressive. Twin diff lock helps, doesn't it?
Well, this is what it's all about. There is the smallest creek crossing in the world down there with a two-step climb out of it that's going to make an absolute mess of this car trying to get up there.
Beautiful tyres. I got the Mickey Thompson Baja Bosses. You could see where the tyre had eaten into the side and gave me that grip with that sidewall lug.
You know, just ripped into the side of the track.
Really bit in and took it down to dry dirt. I reckon he made the job for the next two blokes pretty easy.
Yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. That's why we take the big truck.
Great, I've got all-terrains. Oh well.
I had a call on the radio saying, oh, I think you're missing some identification. I go, no, I got my wallet, I've got everything.
Hey Mike, we got a call from the EPA, a complaint about littering.
But one thing that always goes amiss, it's either your front number plate or your rear number plate.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with Mike at all. Might need that for the trip home, Mike.
Selecting rear diff lock. I've got four-wheel drive low select, that's about all I can do, and pray. This is quite tight.
We're going for the tree.
Shut up. All through, no problem so far.
Stop up rear line. Watch the logs. Not far up.
No problem. Go the Max.
Right hand down, Gerry. A little bit of left. Straighten up.
I never thought I was going to get up. We were winching for sure after watching everybody else.
Set the winch cable up just in case, and they all come through perfectly. After that, we basically did a U-E and went back down because the track degenerated into single trail motorbike tracks, which we couldn't follow.
Retraced our steps and came back down the hill. Coming in, I didn't realise quite how steep it was. Oh, 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 oh.
Had to do the off-camber thing past the tree again, but everyone come through without any hassle, so it was pretty uneventful, but quite interesting.
You can do plenty of damage going through rivers, so we're always careful not to create any big holes inside in there.
So Mike, it looks like you've bought a fresh build along on this trip.
Yeah, Simon, we've changed out a few cars in the fleet and we decided to give the trusty Ranger a bit of a run for its money.
We've put a fantastic set of suspension inside. We've got the Ridepro suspension. We've put a dual bar on the front, got winch inside. We've got all the big red lighting all the way through the car, side steps. And then the piece de resistance for us was Boss Aluminium. We put a canopy and a tray from Boss on top of it. The canopy is amazing. So for me now, fridges are inside there, battery systems, module shelves. I've never seen anything like Boss's work. It's phenomenal.
So notice you're running the myCOOLMAN fridges. What's your choice there?
I've been a big advocate and stockist of the myCOOLMAN. Absolutely incredible. As you know, we've done everything we can to test them, break them. They just haven't let us down. They've been an incredible fridge.
Gone from mud and wet to rocks and ruts.
So Tony, it's definitely not dusty today, but what are the important factors of four-wheel drive filtration?
Well, the main thing is to have a decent pre-cleaner, and there's a whole stack of different types out there, and then just the best quality air filter you can get, and to maintain them. So be prepared. If you're going on a long trip, make sure you go through the various components, replace things as required, and take a spare or two with you.
And what about fuel filtration? Like, there's a big question over fuel filtration, microns, whether you have it as a secondary or the primary, the order the filters go in, but also just the quality of the Australian fuel.
If you're filling up around metro areas, the quality is usually really good. It's only when you go out into more regional areas where they don't turn over the volume of fuel that much. And if you're looking at pulling into a servo and you can see road tanker in there filling it up, just drive past and go to the next one. That's when most of the stuff that's residual in the bottom of their fuel tanks gets stirred up. We work on the theory if you can put the best filter you can get before the OEM stuff that doesn't restrict the flow, then that's what you want.
We traversed down this rocky track, beautiful little rock steps, only small, nothing too crazy. But you know, get your tyre pressure down, get that extra bit of footprint, a lot easier on the tyre, and you're doing a lot less damage to the track.
You know what, I think we've got a nice little viewing area just here. We'll pull up for a look. Have a look at that. All the way up the valley to the reservoir.
Yep. Pretty spectacular stuff.
Found ourselves eventually in a beautiful lookout for morning tea.
How's that for a view?
That is pretty good.
The lookout was great. We actually a rock formation there, and we're looking back over onto the dam. The scenic picture there of the wind farm behind it, over the valley. So yeah, beautiful view. We stopped for a cup of tea
just picturesque and magnificent.
All right, another crossing, and from the look of it, we're going to need diff locks front and rear.
After we had morning tea, we made our way further along that same track, came to another river crossing that was sort of similar to the first.
Compressor on, rear diff lock on. We'll straighten ourselves up. There's the front on. Oh! We'll get there. Those roots kick you around a bit.
Wasn't as difficult, was still quite technical on the way out, and we bounced around a lot and kicked left and right and all of that sort of good stuff.
It was steep and we had a bit of an incline, a bit of rock. We came down and had to sort of slide into it a little bit before the water. Never knew how Peter was going to go with his carb.
Here we go.
He's trying to keep it clean and straight. He hasn't got too much on it at the moment. I watched him all the way up the hill. He did it pretty easy. The car did it really, really well. But at the end of the day, they all handled themselves pretty good.
So good. Spectacular.
Look at this tree just leaning here. Okay, time to give it a bit of a pop.
The exit out of it was quite good. Very, very wet, steep, slippery. A few tree roots on top of it, which were actually good because once you had a bit of grip on them, you got a bit of traction off them and it pushed you up a bit. We came up to the top of that track then, and it's where we set up for lunch.
So lunch today, rather than bring our own food, we called in at the Bolan Bakery and bought up all of our gear from there.
Beautiful, thank you.
It was a good thing. We're actually doing something for the local community. A lot of the communities here have been struggling for the last 12, 18 months since COVID. So it was a good thing just to do something. It's just good to be able to experience that. Certainly the locals were very, very happy and appreciative of us popping by.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
We bought a whole load of food and took it out on the track with us. Sandwiches, drinks and coffees, donuts and a whole lot of bits and pieces.
Just make sure that all of the rubbish associated with it we pack up and we take back home.
Take out what you bring in, don't leave it behind, and if you see rubbish that someone else has left behind, pick it up, do the right thing. We can keep doing what we love.
After our lunch stop, we went back the way we came, back down through that same river crossing there. That was, again, nice and technical and reasonably deep water in places. And then the nice, long, rocky, technical climb up back through there. Everyone made that look pretty easy, to be honest. The climb back up from the river crossing, there was quite a few rocky ledges, fairly slippery, some off camber. You had to pay a fair bit of attention, and again, Simon's doing his job well, as he does.
One of the things that came to me is that going down one section and coming back up was a completely different aspect. Sheesh. It's very, very, very rutty. Running it up was quite intense, and there was a lot of being thrown around. And again, car handled it great, no problems at all, and just went through the motions and did what it had to do.
Hey Gerry, could you tell me the difference between the Ridepro shocks and the ROX Shocks, please?
The Ridepro suspension componentry, we've got twin tube low pressure gas shocks. They're coupled with springs and rated springs. The key element of the whole suspension is the shock absorbers. So the shockers are designed to work with anything from standard to 50mm lift.
The Ridepro, we call the classic shocks, were the shocks that we developed initially many, many years ago for what the requirements were then for a four-wheel drive industry. But as time went on, vehicles got heavier and people were looking for a heavier suspension system. Therefore, we developed what we call the ROX Shocks, which is the Ridepro off-road extremes for those heavier vehicles and for those harder off-road requirements.
Finished up lunch and did a couple of more tracks around there, and we started to get lower and lower into the valley and closer to the river. Last night it rained in this area. There's been a fair bit of rain by the looks of it coming in this morning.
Uh-oh. Oh.
log hole.
Always a bit nervous when you're going into these things because you don't know how deep they are, you don't know what's inside there.
As you went through it, it was a lot deeper than it looks and had a nice little kick in the centre of it that was, well, totally invisible.
Oh, the shit.
Got a bit of variety there, and at the end of the day, it's a little bit of fun, just something else to clean off the car tomorrow.
Windows up.
Windows are up.
And then arrived at our camp spot here.
In these conditions, you want something that's waterproof, warm and comfortable. And our Daci 30th anniversary Dusk to Dawn was a quick and easy solution. But before we could relax, I had one more challenge right next to our campsite.
One of the key things in all of these trips is preparation and what you've got on your vehicle and what you're bringing with you. Have all your straps, have your recovery gear, make sure your winch is serviced. And that's the beauty about it. Come out with that stuff and you can self-recover yourself. One of the things we're going to demonstrate is the winch wall.
We haven't seen it, but we were assured that we're going to have to winch it. So a little bit of intrepidation, but also a bit of excitement about what it's going to bring.
So we're just going to take the Colorado 7 down, put our nose up it, see how far we can get, and then we'll winch.
Sadly, I'm going to have to pass on that for one reason. I don't have a winch.
And there's some massive ruts in it. It's pretty short, but it's extremely steep. The ruts will be the biggest challenge from my perspective. That's what I think anyway.
I've got Gerry from BRS already setting up tree trunk protector, getting things ready.
Everything we do when we go away, we do as a team. And I'm sure that between the four of us, we will make sure that we get up.
I want to stick to this left-hand side. I don't know how far I'll be able to get.
One thing to be careful of when you get to a winch wall is that you don't get too close to it. You've got to get the winch rope out to be able to fix it somewhere so you can start pulling up.
That's as far as we're going to get. Let's winch it.
Don't be over aggressive with it. Let the winch start to do the job and slowly pull you up. And then when you get the opportunity, drive the wheels and just work your way through it. But on these type of things, it's probably, rather than go flat out, you've really got to go slow and just control it.
Foot off the brake and just gently squeezing the pedal. And it's a nice combination of gently winching and just driving. We don't want the wheels spinning too much.
The tricky thing is if you're driving and winching is that you try and keep the tension on the rope at all times. Now, winch line speeds aren't hugely fast. The more rope you've got out, the slower the line speed. As you come in and you put more rope on the drum, it starts speeding up. So the trick is just to try and keep pace with the winch as it's spooling the rope onto the drum.
Great job, thank you, gentlemen.
So that's the winch wall challenge completed. Now we're just going to make our way and set up camp and get ready for a good night.
While we're at this little section, I brought my Firesticks. Quite an easy thing to set up and they carry very well. It's all carried in a black metal tube. Very, very small and compact to carry. We've put them up over the campfire. We've got a 16-inch pan that we're going to cook up some sausages and have some sausage and bread for a little bit of a snack. It would be a perfect way to end the day with a beer.
I hadn't been out here before, didn't even know there was actually a place called Lal Lal Falls. These are the things that, unless you start getting out and having a look what's in your backyard, you just don't know how much there is around and what beauty there is just in Victoria.
I'd really like to thank Simon for the invite to come along and sit in the passenger seat and just be a part of it. Some of the tracks out here, really awesome, very slippery in places, rocky in places, just a really nice area.
In summing it all up, it's just great to be able to get out. Again, someplace we don't know, something new, doing different things, challenging ourselves, challenging our vehicles, doing it with a group of people that enjoy doing it. And hopefully at the end of the day, the people at home can actually see that and say, well, there's something like that not too far away from where we live. Let's get out and have a crack.